How did I go from a boring white wall with nothing here but a clock and some outlets to a phenomenal 2 in-wall tank setup decorated to perfection? In today's video, I'm going to tell you how it all unfolds to checking this off my bucket list. So here we go. This Mbuna tank was my first African cichlid setup, and it was definitely a learning curve for me. But as I got more into the hobby, I got the multi-tank syndrome, and of course, got more fish and more tanks, including this one, which is my beginner Frontosa tank, which also is held by that stand below it that I actually made myself in the summertime. And that was a learning curve for me too, because I've never built a stand myself. But it was definitely a project that was definitely worth it. And it ended up looking pretty good, so I was pretty happy with it. So like I said, it held mostly Frontosa with a few blue dolphins and yellow labs. And it worked out pretty well, but just like any fish, they grew, and I eventually moved them to my 125 Aqua Decor Frontosa tank, where their permanent location is for the rest of their lives. So anyways, this was originally a spot I was going to leave for some grow out tanks, but then I changed my mind, got a hold of my brother, and between the both of us, we were able to put our brains together and put in an in-wall tank setup. My brother did all the framework for me, and then after that, we'd put the stands together, and then we placed the tank on either side of the windows just to make sure that all our measurements were correct and the tank was level before moving on to the drywall. This is where everything really started to take shape on how it was going to look. And then adding the white trim for the borders, for the windows, and then moving on to the rest of the drywall and waiting for it to dry, of course, before adding the paint. I know back here it doesn't look the best, but I'm only back here to feed the fish and do maintenance. And no one sees back here anyways, so who cares? After that was done, we tested the tank on both sides of the windows to make sure that the tank lined up with the trim for the border around each windows. Then after that, we made sure the bifold doors worked, and it was on to painting. I personally picked an aqua marine color, mainly because, in my opinion, I feel like you really can't go wrong with this color, especially when setting up an aquatic atmosphere. And it made a lot of the decorations and even the trim and the white really pop out and be really noticeable. And that's why I really like this color. I mean, as I pan around here, like I said, just the window trim itself makes everything really pop out and make everything stand out really well. Another reason why I chose this paint color too is I actually had this paint on hand as well, because I had used it in this bathroom that we had remodeled before this project right here. So why not use the same aquamarine paint to coincide with everything else? So I figured, why not? Another cool thing is in the corner there is a steel load-bearing post. So within this project, I was able to hide that as well. There's actually 2 of them that I was able to hide, so I thought that was pretty cool. I know looking out of these windows is kind of pointless, but this view is more or less just a look of how all the stands were built, how they were anchored to the concrete floor, and just kind of a general idea of how everything looks before the tanks are in and how it looks back here. So anyways, this is leading back out into the fish room, looking at my grow out tanks, all my 10s, 20s, couple 40s, couple 29s, my fry tank, and heading back out into the entranceway. And now the fun part, tearing the tanks down and bringing them down here.
And I'm sure you guys know a thing or two about tearing a tank down just to find a new spot for it. It takes a lot of work, but if it's in its permanent location for its new spot, it's totally worth it. Especially for me, being in an in-wall setup. So it was a lot of work, especially getting through all the doorways and going downstairs into the basement. It's a lot more work than you think.
And I was able to save half the water, all the filtration media, and everything involved with it. And I did a 50% water change while I was at it. Because, why not if I'm moving a tank, right? Same with the other tank as well. There's that tank that's going to be put in this window here.
And then this is just a quick look of me replacing the water that I saved, along with replacing brand new water and adding the fish back in. And everything turned out to look pretty cool. And I was a little concerned with doing this just because of the fact that this was a several day project, so that means you have to move the fish into a separate tank, set everything up, tear the tanks down, put everything back to how it was, and then put the fish right back in the tank. And I was hoping not to ruffle too many fins, but it seems like they were okay after everything was said and done. So I added the second tank and some decorations, and here's how it looks to this day. And I couldn't be happier with the setup. It's a perfect viewing spot for live streams and YouTube videos. It's got everything I need where it's at. I'm reusing my stand that I had made for storage and live stream equipment, and just the overall look of everything, I was pretty happy with it. And I also really like the standing view, so that way when you have guests, friends, and family over, that they don't have to bend down to see what's inside the tank. It's all at eye level, and just an overall experience of the fish room has just gotten progressively better and better as time goes on. I hope you've enjoyed this video as much as I did making it. I really appreciate you guys watching and seeing the progression of this, and I hope to see you guys on the next one. Have a great day and take care.